Hey everyone, my name is Jay Wolf and welcome back to my YouTube channel. And in this video, I want to discuss something that's been on my mind and probably a lot of Star Wars fans' mind too, and maybe even more people's minds. And that is, how did Palpatine, Darth Sidious, survive? And how is he back in Star Wars Episode 9, Rise of Skywalker? So that's what we're going to discuss today. So let's just jump into it. Now, at the end of Star Wars Episode 9, the end of the Episode 9 trailer, the camera rises up on an ocean on what appears to be a lush green foresty planet. We can assume it's probably another part of Endor. And it shows the remains of the Death Star, the second Death Star to be exact. Now, aside from the fact that in Episode 6, we saw the Death Star explode violently, so violently in fact that it looks like it got disintegrated, there's something else weird and off about this part of the trailer. And that is that when the camera fades away, fades to black at the end of the trailer, as the shot on the Death Star zooms in, we hear a cackling, ominous laugh. And that laugh belongs to the one and only Darth Sidious. That's right, the Emperor himself. Said to be killed, shown to be killed, thrown off the balcony and into the main reactor chamber of the second Death Star by Darth Vader. At that time, now was Anakin Skywalker. So, seeing this is just as confusing as seeing the remains of the second Death Star, because Sidious was most certainly killed in that Death Star when it was destroyed. But here's the thing. That's not necessarily true. In Star Wars The Clone Wars, Season 6, in the Lost Episodes, specifically the Yoda arc, Yoda travels to a ancient Sith temple. And in that Sith temple, Yoda reaches an artifact lying deep in the temple. I think it is a coffin of sorts, a very fancy ancient Sith coffin. That's where the life force of the ancient Sith Lord Darth Bane manifests itself to Yoda, to talk with him, to speak with him. So, how is that possible? Well, here's my theory on this. Emperor Sidious, right before he died, bonded his life force, just as Darth Bane did, to the place where he most likely died, which is, in Sidious's case, the second Death Star, right before it blew up, as he was maybe falling or right as he hit the ground, as him hitting the ground was part of the chain reaction to cause the explosion of the second Death Star. Then, him being as strong as he is in the Force, since his midichlorian count is somewhere between 10 to 20,000, maybe even more. I'm sorry, I don't try to ignore the midichlorian counts, as most Star Wars fans do. But seeing as he's so powerful in the Force, especially the dark side, he was able to bond himself to the Death Star itself, most likely the core of the Death Star, and kept parts of it together as it exploded. So, I think when Rey, Poe, and Finn, and maybe even Kylo Ren enter the remains of the second Death Star, as it seems to be where they're headed, shown by the trailer and some of the reports that we've heard, although nothing is confirmed quite yet, they are in a way entering the essence of Darth Sidious. They're like going inside him almost. And in this area, in the broken remains of the Death Star on Endor, they would go inside the remains of it, the hallways, the corridors, any area within the Death Star, and Sidious would essentially have full reign in there to do whatever he pleases. It would be like jumping into Darth Bane's coffin. I mean, you're jumping inside of him. He could do whatever he wants to you. It'd be like in Mass Effect 2 when you go inside one of the, when you go inside the Reapers, it'd be like that. They have almost full reign. They can screw with your mind and they can make you see things. So, this would not only be a great way to tie in the original Star Wars trilogy from the 70s and 80s, but also a great way to try in the prequel trilogy from the late 90s, early 2000s, which I grew up on, as well as tying in the expansive lore of the expanded universe and the Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebels TV shows. It would be really nice in tying it all in, especially since Dave Filoni, the creator of Star Wars The Clone Wars and Star Wars Rebel, the showrunner of most of the shows of Star Wars, is releasing a new Clone Wars season 7, coming out soon, which I am hyped for. But yeah, so just to sum it up quickly, it seems like Darth Sidious took his life force and bonded it to the Death Star, at least part of the Death Star, maybe the core itself, maybe the parts surrounding it, and is using that to keep alive and remain alive for the new movies. And yeah, I think it'd be a pretty cool idea. I think it would be really great to go. Might be a little too convoluted and asking for audiences who are not fans of Star Wars to know a little too much about Star Wars to get into the movie. But I mean, we just watched Marvel pull off the craziest of movies, 22 comic book films and references to a whole host of comics. And we cared about it. Like, I mean, $2.7 billion almost. It speaks. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Let me know if you think I might be right. Let me know if you have a different opinion down below. If you like this video, I release mostly nerd content. This is probably my second Star Wars video ever on this channel, and there will be more to come, especially when Star Wars Episode 9 gets closer and closer to release and we see more and more from it. But yeah, if you want to see more, subscribe below. Give this video a like if you liked it, and thanks for watching. So, peace!